بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما ونسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We welcome you to another edition of the Black Imams Roundtable with our beloved Imams who are all on time. MashaAllah. Tabarakallah. Right? Imam Faheem Lee, Imam Luqman Ahmad, and the esteemed Imam Abdullah. And today we're going to continue in the conversations we've been having about leadership and followership in our community. So yesterday we had an interesting discussion with Imam Hamza Abdul Malik and Imam Sulaiman Hamid and Imam Jihad Safir from Memphis, Tennessee, Atlanta and Los Angeles, California. So tonight we want to continue that conversation, and I have a series of questions that I would like the Imams to address in relating to this subject of leadership and followership. So I want each Imam to take like 10 minutes, and I want you to think about it. So maybe I think Imam Naeem should go first, because he's more prepared, I know for sure, for this question that I'm going to ask. And then it will give y'all the other two Imams a chance to think about it. So the question, Imam Naeem, is if you could make an ideal community of leadership and followership, and you had that ability, what would it look like? Let's all go on mute for Imam Naeem.
Alhamdulillah.
You got to do that in 10 minutes or less.
10 minutes or less? Probably less.
Okay, good.
Alhamdulillah. Oh, first of all, assalamu alaikum to everyone. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa afdalu salatu wa atamu taslim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa radiyallahu ta'ala an sadat al-tabi'in wa ulama al-amalin wa a'immatul arbatul mujtahidin wa muqallidihim ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. The question was, if I had the ability to make an ideal Islamic community, what would it look like? And I think before I just give the answer, I'll build up to it by first mentioning a verse from the Quran, or at least a portion of the verse of a verse from the Quran, a well-known verse. At least back in the day, everybody knew this verse, Surah 4, Ayah 59, Surah Nisa, the chapter entitled "The Women," where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha nadhina amanu, ati'u allaha wa ati'u rasula, wa ulil amri minkum, fa in tanazatum fi shay'in furuduhu ila Allahi wa rasul, ila al-akhir al-ayat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, obey Allah and obey his messenger and those charged with authority among you. If you differ in anything, refer it back to Allah and his messenger. I first like to highlight the fact that Allah begins this verse by saying, O you who believe. So Allah is addressing the believers. And then he gives his first command. He says, obey Allah. And the way this verse is constructed, it tells us, even linguistically, even without any commentary, we know that obedience to Allah is wajib, is obligatory, is not conditioned upon anything. Anything less than that is sinful, and if Allah so chooses, he could punish us for doing anything less than obeying him. And then comes the second order, and obey his messenger. And the same thing, obedience to the messenger of Allah, Sallallahu, Alaihi, Wasallam, is absolute. And you notice in the Arabic, before each of those, before Allah's name and before the messenger, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is the verb ati'u, obey, right? And then there's a third category where Allah says, ulil amri minkum, wa ulil amri minkum, and those charged with authority among you. And so this teaches us that obedience to those charged in authority among you, number one, is conditional. That command, that fi'l amr, is not there, is not present before that third category to whom obedience is due. And so that number one, that tells us that obedience to ulil amri minkum is, number one, conditioned upon the fact that those charged in authority among you are in fact believers. That's who Allah is addressing. And number two, that they themselves are obedient to Allah and his messenger. This third category of people, ulil amri minkum, when you look up the commentaries regarding this, number one, the sababul nuzul, the reason why this verse was revealed is because of one, his name escapes me at the moment, but it was referred to one of the Sahaba who the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had put in command during a military campaign, and I believe it was at the Battle of Uhud, but I'm not sure. My memory's kind of weak. And so, and one thing that I like to highlight before I move on to the next thing that I'm going to mention, and because a lot of times we have these conversations about followers, leaders, Muslim communities, organizations, states, governments, etc., is the very last point. When you read this tafsir of Abdullah Danfodio called Dia Ta'wil fi Mana Tanzil, when he's explaining Ulil Amri Minkum, the very last thing he says in explaining who Ulil Amri Minkum is he says that this verse, those charged with authority among you, also applies as it relates to a husband or a man in his family. So when a lot of times people hear this verse, their mind automatically gets stuck in the masjid, or it gets stuck in the government, or it gets stuck in the jamaat. No, that the application of this verse is wider than that. And so with that being said, I want to mention the hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and it's been narrated by many different Sahaba. The one I'm narrating is from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, may Allah be pleased with both of them, who said, Kulukum ra'in wa kulukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi. Each and every one of you is a shepherd and is responsible or will be questioned about his flock. Kulu, Imam talked about Kulu this morning. Kulu bidatin dolala, right? Kulukum ra'in wa kulukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi. Each and every one of you is a shepherd and will be questioned about their flock. And I want you all to pay attention to the order. First, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is telling us that each and every one of us are in charge, or a leader, or is a shepherd, and will be held accountable or will be questioned about that which we are put in charge of. And then he says, Al-Imamu ra'in wa mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi. The Imam is a shepherd and will be questioned about his flock, right? And then he says, Ar-rajulu ra'in fi ahlihi wa mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi. The man is a shepherd in his family and will be questioned about his flock. And then he says, Amar'atu ra'iyatun fi bayti zawjiha wa mas'ulatun an ra'iyatiha. That the woman is a shepherd in her husband's house and will be questioned about her flock. Wa khadimu ra'in fi mali sayyidihi wa mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi. And the servant or the slave is a shepherd with regards to his master's wealth and will be questioned about that. And then he basically almost repeated the same statement he did in the beginning, and he said, "Wa kulukum ra'in wa mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi," that each and every one of you is a shepherd and will be questioned about his flock. And so, if you paid attention to the tartib or the order, you see that number one, each and every one of us is in charge of something and is going to be asked about that thing in which we are put in charge of. And then he mentioned the imam, and then in some narrations mention the sultan, some narrations mention the Amir. And I had a conversation with a brother earlier, and in that conversation, in this line of the hadith, I need to mention certain things because when we use terminology, sometimes people get confused. When you talk about Islamic leadership, whether it be government or what have you, when the term imam is used unrestrictedly, there's no adjective attached to it. It's talking about the amir or the leader, the one who has power. When you restrict it, or you say like imam ratib, imam masjid, imam salat, then you're talking about the prayer leader. But when you read books like any book dealing with Islamic government, one's popping, it's right behind me on the shelf. The name escapes me. But in any case, when they use the word imam, they're not talking about just the guy that leads the prayer. It's talking about the one who has the overall authority. Is usually when you condition it upon something, then it's restricted to that thing. So that needs to be clear. A lot of us, because we only practice colonialized Islam, the only imam we know is the imam who's leading the prayers. You know, you're laughing. You know, we born post-colonialism, so most of us don't have no real authority. So the only imam we know is the imam in the masjid, right? So alhamdulillah. So yeah, but when the word imam is used, it's talking about unrestrictedly. When does it say imam of this or that? That's the amir, the sultan, the khalifa, the ruler, right? So in any case, so this hadith, that's what it's talking about. It's not talking about necessarily only the prayer leader, right? So the imam is responsible for, is a shepherd, is responsible for his flock. The man in his house. And a lot of people, we don't recognize that. The man is not the leader in his house, right? So, the woman is the leader over the husband's family. Like, she's the queen of the domain, right? And the servant or the slave. And so now, to go back to your question, if I had the ability to make the perfect community, how would it look? Number one, my community will be made up of a bunch of people that already recognize that they have their own jamaats. They have their own communities, and their jamaats are their families. And so that man is coming to my community understanding that, he has skills, he has resources, he has his family with him, and he's putting his hand in my hand, and he's responsible for certain things, and I'm responsible for certain things. And a lot of times people don't have this type of clarity because, a lot of us have, different types of experiences and different types of jamaats or communities, what have you. And sometimes we don't know where they draw the boundary at. Like the imam will have a say-so in what the wife cooks for the husband for dinner, right? we don't, a lot of times we don't know where to draw the boundary at. And so the people in my community will be made up of people that recognize that they are themselves, they're leaders. They are leaders in their own respect. And they're bringing their leadership in their individual communities to the table, and we are going to work together to do something as a community. So I don't know how long I've been talking. So I don't know if that's exactly what you're looking for, but I'll pause right there, inshallah.
It's your ideal community, but it looks
Oh, I
like
didn't
to
get that
you.
to you
That's what
yet.
I'm looking for.
So
Uh,
in our ideal community, uh, we would have uh, men, women, and children all active in our community. What would it physically look like? It'll have a masjid. It'll have a school. It will have a business district. It will have houses surrounding the masjid, all in this one area. It will have security protecting all of that, and we will control that area in the same way that, like I'm from New York, so you have Williamsburg, how the Jews have it, and you have Crown Heights. If you know about those areas, that they have their own security. Even though they live in the United States, they live under the authority of the city of New York, but they take some ownership and some control of where they live. So we will have the same thing. Just like, you go in Philly by the bus station, you got little Chinatown, New York has a Chinatown and everything like that. We will have a Muslim town. So that's how it would physically look to me.
okay. Barakallahu bikum. So Sayyidi Imam Luqman. So you heard Imam Naeem, so you get a little ability to build on something, but if you had the ability to establish a community under your leadership, what would that leadership and followership look like, and what would that community look like? In 10 minutes or less. So you got to be concise. First, you got to take your mic on, put it on.
Okay. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone. Yeah, I took some notes too. What I would do is, in this day and age, I would pretty much follow the law. Because in Islam, because we have the law, everything in Islam is regulated and made functional by the law. Now, the law itself is not going to always make every single person happy, because it really doesn't build on emotions. It builds on functionality and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if I had an idea, if it was my, jama'ah, and you had numbers, and people were saying, man, what kind of jama'ah you want, or what are we going to do? Number one, you would have, of course, Imam. Second, you would definitely have bay'ah, some sort of fealty, allegiance to the community. I wouldn't even allow anybody to be coming to the masjid. The masjid is open for everybody, no matter. But as far as in my community, and we don't have an eye to eye. Like, you're okay. I'm your imam. I'm responsible for things, and you can check me too. I'm your imam, but also I know that you're going to give your 50 cents a year, or you're going to be accounted for, because the Prophet never allowed anybody at any time, either the Khulafa Rashidin. Nobody never allowed where a person just be in and out. I don't know your name. You're not responsible for anything, but you're here and you got a voice. That never happened until in America with mainly blacks, I think. Number two, we would because that's law. That's law. That's functionality. If you got 10 people, 10 families, and I'd require a minimum Islamic education for people in the circle. You have ranks like you do in Islam. Another thing is that, as far as leadership is concerned, I think leadership needs to be checked, and there needs to be a check and balance for imams. I happen to believe that, but I believe that should be from people who understand about the imamah, understand about the sharia, not scholars. It can be scholars a part of it, but in traditional Islamic governance, going back to after the Prophet, Alaihi, when the Prophet was alive, he was everything, right? He called the shots. But after the death of the Prophet, during the time of Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, all through the Umayyads, it was still they still had the Ahlul Hul wal Uqd. You always have what's called the Ahlul Hul wal Uqd, and they have that in America. That's called the um, uh, electoral college. It's the same principle, electoral college. We don't vote for the president. No, you have people. We have the popular vote, and you have people who every state has their own representatives to the electoral college, and they get together and they vote. They vote for the president. They may go by the popular vote. Well, and that's an Islamic concept. It's called Ahlul Hul wal Uqd, and that's how they That's how they established the Khilafat of Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. Even under Muawiyah, they still had Ahlul Hul wal Uqd. There was people who in the community who were responsible brothers and sisters in every community. In every community of Muslims, you have people who have been around for a long time. They're responsible. They do a lot of the volunteer work. They're the ones that be at the Masjid. They're the ones who've been involved in Islam for a while. Not the person just walked in the door yesterday, who may not be here tomorrow. I wouldn't put those kind of people in sensitive positions. I would have Ahl Hul wal Uqd. They decide who is Imam. Because when you have the people who have influence in the community, if they get together and say, "Hey, we like this guy," even today, if you did that today amongst Muslims in America, if you had prominent Muslims from each community for a region or for a city, and say, "Hey, man, we're for this guy. We think he's the best person to be the imam." That's called Ahlul Hul wal Uqd, and they may listen to the people. Each one of those have their own, people who they listen to, but they come to that decision. That way, if the imam, if he gets out of hand, you have people with power and influence in your community to check them. But you also have people with power and influence to see that the imam is thriving and that he can do proper leadership. That's Islam. So I would definitely have that. So it'd be layers. I would have layers. You would have bay'ah. You would have to be committed. You have to be a member. You just couldn't. I mean, the community was open to anybody. I mean, you help anybody, but you just can't allow, in my view, especially under the law, you can't allow where there's no reciprocity between imam and the ma'mun. That just never existed in Islam. That just never happened. It only happened now in America, partially because we're converts, everybody's new to Islam, and we're learning this stuff. People are learning now, And so, and another thing is that it'd be a certain minimum required of knowledge. So that part, and then you have what's called and I'm glad you mentioned that, Imam Naeem, about the verse, "Wa ulil amri minkum," and the key word, the actionable word here is amr. Ulil amr. I mean, just look at the word. Amr means affair. It means command. From that word comes the word amir. So a model community would be, you would have amirs and amira. It doesn't necessarily have to be a man. But for every part that's related to the functionality and the well-being. Okay, wait a second. I'm talking. And every part that has to do with the functionality and the well-being of the Muslim community, there has to be somebody responsible for it. There has to be somebody, even if there's rumors. When we were in the Daughter of Islam, even if we had an emir who was in charge of other things, but he was in charge of rumors. So there's a rumor going around, and it's a rumor. You had one person who their job was to find out about this rumor, so that the whole community is not affected by the fitna. So right now, what we have in most Muslim communities, what we have is that everybody works on every issue. So if there's a political issue, everybody gets involved. If it's a personal issue, everybody gets involved. And that's not really the way that Islam functions. It really functions that you have people in charge of different things. You have people in security. These are the things. You have people in security, and that's their job. Their job is to secure the ummah. You have people in charge of conflict resolution. That's their job. Their job is qada. So if two brothers are arguing, a husband and wife are arguing, Idris, I'm talking right now. No, I'm talking. which I'm done. So if you had if you had a need for conflict resolution, for example, okay, you can't just throw everything to everybody and nobody's responsible for it. You have people. Okay, this is the couple right here. They deal with conflict resolution between other couples. That's their job. So everything, if there's a problem over here, they go over there and they deal with that over there. And if there's a problem with security, well, this mother, he deals with that over there. I mean, that's their job to secure the masjid. There's a problem, there's a break in. Well, we have investigators to do it, so everybody else can do whatever else they're doing. So it doesn't, you have the imam. That's his job. It's laid out. So physically, how it will look nowadays, it's not likely people are going to get land like that. So you have to move in the same neighborhoods. You have to find. I mean, realistically, you'd find neighborhoods where it's affordable for people to move to that area to be close to masjid, and then you have to. I mean, it's idealism right now because that's the problem with idealism. Idealism is far away from reality. Right now, our condition as Muslims, like, it's not really good. It's just and it's not stuff that you can flip overnight, and you can't even implement the law. There's basically no law in Black Muslim America. It's basically a lawless society. It's lawless. It's lawlessness, and until we deal with that, the problem is going to start to this is just going to exacerbate. But that's what I would do. I would administer it by the law, too much as possible. Now, we don't have physical authority where imams have authority over regions or you have governors, but as much as you have that, you would have, and as large as your community go, you would compartmentalize it. You might have an imam, you might have an emir, you might have a group of imams. You may have rotating imams. That's permissible. That's not the best idea, but there's different ways in the Sharia, in Islamic law. There is just a lot of latitude about how you can construct a community of Muslims. It's based upon your current condition. So you look at your current condition, and then you look at the law, and then you figure out, okay, according to the law of Islam, the Quran, the Sunnah, fiqh laws, how can we construct a workable Muslim community or body of people who are working as a jama'ah? Because the jama'ah is wajib. The imama is, some things are wajib, and they're collective things. So, and then on top of that, you would have whatever problems, because I don't think there's any such thing as a model community. I mean, there's communities that are functional, and the functionality sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad. Most of Islamic history, and I'm not talking about just the Khulafa and Umar, and there's like thousands of them. I'm talking about even local municipalities of Muslims, and you have all kinds of situations. You have situations now. You go to South Africa, you got neighborhoods that this whole neighborhood is Muslim. The whole neighborhood. They got the police, yeah. But you go to Malaysia, the same thing. You go to areas of Syria, well, before it was all bombed up. But you have that. You have the Kurdistan. You have that. You have all kinds of situations where there's the emirs and there's armies and there's people, But in each one of them, each one, if you go to Pakistan, you have you have neighborhoods. You have parts of a city. All this city, it may be under the Pakistani government, but you have imams and you have amirs and you have people who govern those areas. And even the government has to come in and say, well, okay, they leave them alone. That's just the way Islam works. But in every one of those places, where a person stands. Where brother stands, sister stands. Hey man, this is my imam, this is my community, so and so, so and so. Yeah, this is where. Okay, this is where, and and there's always checks and balances. I mean, people talk about imams going wild and stuff because wild, in our understanding as American Muslims, wild is that man, he spent $1,000 that he wasn't supposed to spend. That's wild to us. Wild in the Muslim world, man, I mean, he didn't kill 40 people, man. You know what I mean? And this and that, and took over this town and this town and this town, because the imams do that. So
Okay.
so that's pretty much it. I'd follow the law. I'd
Okay.
go by the law.
Barakallahu fikum. Imam Faheem, Imam of the Boom Bap. Your turn.
You
Besides major hip hop concerts in your community, what else would exist?
no, I wouldn't have that. That had to be a secret kind of thing. Yeah, hold on. Okay. Uh first of all, assalamu alaikum to everyone who's tuning in. We appreciate you being here. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. I think if we're talking about an ideal community,
So I said, if you had your way, and you could make your ideal community, what you see as an ideal community, and you're an imam, so you have something in your mind, you should, all of us do, what would it look like in terms of leadership, followership? Give us a 10-minute tour of that community, what it would look like.
Okay, well, the first thing is that, we would carve out our territory. We would find a place that we would locate, and then we would set up, those things that are essential for a community. We would have a masjid, we would have a bank, we would have a hospital, and we will have a school, and Islamic study school, and also like secular training, we would have boys in, they do their Islamic studies, and then they, train for, different arts and crafts, what they call it, like, metal, like we used to do in school, metal shop, wood shop, all that, electrician, carpentry,
the trade.
Trade school. We would have girls, learning how to sew, how to cook, and then we would have both of them in each school. All of our boys and girls will learn, how to shoot guns, archery, swimming, wrestling, have a class on adab, behavior, taking care of our elders, putting the youth to work. And, we would just be operating as a community. We all live together. We're doing business with each other. The families know each other. We have some, some freestyle sessions at night. No, I'm just joking. But just really training, nurturing, and really developing our youth, and have all those things that they need. We living together. Obviously, we'll be, having brotherhood. We have different outings that we do together. Brothers with sisters. Brothers with brothers, sisters with sisters, things like that. But just a reclusive place. My ideal community would be somewhere that would be reclusive. It's just us there, and it'd be similar to like a sundown town. You ever heard of sundown towns in this country? Where they had all of these towns where, they marked their borders, and they called it sundown town because you weren't supposed to get caught there after the sun goes down. So we carve out our territory, and don't come around here at night. Don't come snooping around here. Don't bother us. Leave us alone. We live in our life. We worshiping Allah. We living together. We growing our own food. We teaching our own children. Don't get caught here after sundown, or it's going to be a problem. So, and some of these towns still exist in America. Some of them still exist. So, that would be my ideal thing, that we have a flourishing community. We live together. We know each other, and that we are developing a community where we sending our children out in the world, and they represent what we produce. They represent what we produce. We're producing hufad, we're producing men, we're producing women, we're producing workers, we're producing educators, we're producing teachers, we're producing warriors. All of that, because we're in control of our own neighborhood, we're in control of our own finances, and we won't need any help from the government or anything like that. That would be my ideal community. So
now I ask all three of you, and you can take it as you want. We talked about an ideal community. And a lot of times when we have these sessions, right, I noticed something all of you mentioned was that there would need to be some form of affiliation, commitment to all of those ideal communities that you mentioned. So Imam Naim and Imam Luqman and Imam Faheem, you all mentioned about this gathering of together. So I would like to know your stance on those. How would you deal with those who want to be Muslim, who say I'm Muslim, but they have been already in a habit of being detached from community, yet wanting to have say-so in a community? In all of the communities you described, how would you deal with this element, which is a major element in the Muslim community? I'll let everyone start first.
You said, how would you deal with, say it again?
So y'all mentioned the community. Everyone mentioned the community. And all of those communities y'all mentioned, all those models and what it looked like, entailed some form of affiliation, allegiance, he used the word bay'ah, or commitment, financially, being a part. Naeem mentioned all these different aspects of leadership within the totality of his community from the different levels, but all of them would have some kind of buy-in. But what we notice in our time, because the ideal community, I'm asking you something because I'm guiding us somewhere, right? So since in our time, many people that this Masjid model we do, there is no buy-in. I come even like we have this roundtable. You got in the listening audience many people who are not affiliated to nothing we're talking about in that description. They don't have a community. Yesterday they called them Masjid hoppers, right? So you have this element. How would you deal with this large element that exists in the Muslim community and related to your ideal community?
Yeah, go ahead, man. You going?
I was just going to mention that. I mean, that's a very good question. The way I would deal with that, I mean, it's a big issue. Is that number one? Um, I'm just never going to put a person who's committed in the same category as a person who's not committed. The service may be the same. As an imam, I have people who I am actually their imam for real. I'm like their imam in different parts of the country who like, no, that's my imam right there. Right. And they call me and they whatever, we have a relationship like that. And I may deal with the situation in their home or, the kids. Some I named their kids. Some I've married I married their children to their husbands and wives. And, but I can never see a situation where a person who is uncommitted is the same as a person who's committed. I can never make that equal. I can never, but I think that this should be a period because you have a lot of Muslims who maybe they're new Muslims. They just don't know what Islam is. And so we have an obligation to teach them. And everybody should have a buy-in process. Just like in America, if you want to become a citizen, you just can't walk in the door and say, I'm here, I'm a citizen, and I'm going to vote, and I'm going to do everything. No, you got to go through a process, man. You got so-and-so, and at some point, you have to pledge allegiance to you have to, come on, I'm talking on the phone, man. So at some point, you have to take your citizenship test, you have to put your hand, and you have to pledge under God that you are going to defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign or domestic. And when you do that, then you become a citizen. Then you can be, but you just can't walk in the door. And so I know that in the times we're living in today, a lot of people are just going to be left behind, man. Everybody's not interested to practice Islam. That's just the reality of it is. People like Islam. Islam is cute. Islam is it's a way up. I'm Muslim. Alhamdulillah. We got things in Islam that's real cool, man. But actually practicing Islam, a lot of people aren't really interested in practicing Islam. They practice, they worship themselves. And in Islam, essentially the word Islam means submission. Is submit to God. We're all slaves of Allah. We're all answerable to Allah. That's just the reality. So anybody who's not answerable to anybody but himself, I wouldn't really have too much to do with them. I don't want them in my community.
Okay.
Go someplace else.
Okay. Imam Naeem, maybe. Are you ready, Imam Faheem?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that if we were to develop ideal communities, there would be a culture inside of those communities. One that's known, and then there's like an unwritten code in the culture. You know what I mean?
Imam, could you put your mic on mute?
And if a person comes in the community, there are certain things that's going to be expected of them. If you're in this part of this community, this is how we get down. You live here, you earn the money, your kids are going to school, we got everything at your disposal. You got to sit down and get in line. That's it. If you don't sit down and get in line, you can go somewhere else. We building something here, and if anybody got if they got a sound mind and they see something that's flourishing, people want to be a part of something that's working. You know what I mean? Or they want to see something that's already established. So if they see it, I don't know if most people would have a problem with that. You know what I mean? But then you're going to have those people, those drifters, let them drift, But if you come to this town, you come to this community, this is what you got to do. You got to work. You got to produce. You got to be doing something to live here. This is how we do it. You know what I mean? And if you ain't with it, deuces. That's it, man. We got something we building here, and people just, if you're not building nothing, you're not helping. If you're not contributing, you're not helping. And honestly, we don't need you. We don't need you. That's how I feel about it.
Imam Naeem.
Question again? I got the question. I just don't want to go off and still not answer your question.
So you got your community. You have this ideal community you talked about. And that community involves some kind of commitment, some kind of allegiance, right? But we have in our environment many people who are used to, I go to the Masjid, I go to the community, I am not obligated to do anything or accountable, but I have say so, and I want my say so and my share of thought, but I am not accountable myself. How would you deal with the element in your community?
Alhamdulillah, as you already said, this is what we got. Alhamdulillah, we have people in our community that are committed, they brought in, they're active, etc. But like you said, we live in a time where we have a lot of people, who are like that. So like Imam Luqman said, you come to pray, anybody come to Masjid, pray. Alhamdulillah, pray and leave. Now you insist that you have a say so, and that you're heard, and that you actually moving some. This is where we have a problem at, and I'm sure that a lot of people. So we got a brother in our masjid now, right? You know what he said? If you look at the comments, he said, "Send them to me." That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna send them to him, right? That's it, right? So alhamdulillah. What a lot of these people do not understand. A lot of times they don't understand. They think that, they've arrived at an understanding and there's nothing wrong in them taking this position. But on the ground, them taking that position creates a lot of problems. And I always use marriage because it's an obvious example. There's so many problems that are created by people like that, just in the field of marriage. You get married in this community. Why did you get married in this community? Because there was something going on in the other community that you said you affiliated with, and it might have been some red tape that you didn't want to deal with, or some things about you may have to have been exposed if you got married in that community. So you came to this community and you got married. And it didn't work out. And so you got divorced by this brother on the street. And so now the sister's rights, for example, the sister's not getting her rights. What community can she get her right from? She don't belong to no community. This is a common example. And so that's one example of how that type of thinking affects people in real life. And a lot of times, sometimes we be advocates of our own destruction. Right. And so basically, to answer your question, we would impress and impose upon them the fact that you have to be committed in some type of way. Just because you're here today, that doesn't mean anything. And there's been whole legal rulings and books, and these people are Islamically, they're really considered like rebels. They don't have no allegiance to nothing. They're rebels. They have a classification in Islam. And so how would you deal with them? Would not deal with them, right? You come, you pray, whatever, but you insist, like, listen, we appreciate the fact that you emotional and you passionate about your idea. Alhamdulillah, everybody has ideas, and yours seem like it may be a good one. We'll take it in consideration. Next. Like I said on the post, and you commented when some years ago, my imam brought me to a majlis meeting, and I'm a young boy, assistant of an imam, and I have, first when I came in the meeting, he was like, who is he? Why is he here? My imam said, he's with me. He's one of my assistants. All right, cool. Alhamdulillah. They got into a discussion on the issue, and I raised my hand, right? It's an honor that I'm there. They outsiders ain't usually there, just the imams, right? Here go this young 20-something-year-old imam assistant raising his hand. I think such and such a so-and-so, such and such a so-and-so. The imam looked at me that was running the meeting with the ice grill. He let me finish. He said, all right, alhamdulillah, imam, what you got to say about it? He just moved right along. He didn't pay me no attention. And so that's the kind of treatment we give people. Alhamdulillah, we hear you and all that, but next, alhamdulillah. So that's how I would treat them. If somebody want to get gorilla, we got gorillas too. So it don't really, they ain't really scaring nobody. But alhamdulillah.
So now my question. Go ahead, Imam Faheem.
Oh, go ahead. Well, there was a question that a sister posed. I was looking at it, and she said something about in our perfect communities, why don't we have a da'wah center to invite non-Muslims? And I think the community itself is da'wah. When you see a functioning community, of course, people are welcome to come. And when they see us, our children are well behaved, men are working, sisters are covered. That will encourage them to be interested in Islam, and then we'll feed them, we'll show them around the city, and we'll take care of them, and inshallah they accept, but they more than welcome, but we talking about in America, yeah, we invite people, but we need to have our own, we have people that's qualified for da'wah, but we just need to have our own space. We really need to have our own space. That's my view. But that was a great question though, by the way, sister, inshallah.
If you could give one thing related to that question about the ideal community, now you're all leaders. You have communities. You are imams. If you wanted to go on a scale of percentage, right? What percentage are your communities that you have now, your Masjid, or your Jamaat, from that ideal community? What percentage, and what is one main thing that's preventing you from reaching to your ideal community? Just one thing to you. That is the most essential thing. One, not more than one. So it should be quick, right? So what percentage are you at? If you look at your community, what percentage are you to your ideal community? And what is the one thing that is preventing you from reaching that ideal thing? There may be other factors, but I just want the most essential one. So I'll start with you, Imam Naeem.
Consistency. Because everything else I could say, it could be eliminated with consistency. Because the first thing that came to my mind is money. But if the people we had were consistent with the little money that we had, we wouldn't have that issue. So consistency.
And what percent are you towards that ideal community?
50.
Imam Faheem?
Um, I'm gonna go with finances, big finances. We need big money, you know. As far as percentage wise, whew, man, I say 20.
Imam Luqman. Your microphone's not on.
I said, where you get that question from, man? You answer that. No,
When we finish all this round of questions, we're going to learn a lot from these questions.
no. I know you have I know you have reason because I know you. I know you. You know, it's hard. I think finance is the biggest thing for me as an imam. It's finance resources. Imams aren't. I mean, just imams don't have the resources. They don't have the resources to even compete. They don't even have the resources to do little things. And I just haven't seen anywhere in the United States of America where any religious community, where any work without resources. It's just a given. And I said percentage wise, well, our community, the imam of the community is another imam. He's my cousin, but he's an imam. I just moved here, so it's a different thing. So I would say we're probably 20%, or we would like to be probably 20% as the group. Um, and it's different from where I was in California, but we're about 20% because we have very committed people. We have people who are committed, you know, and we have people who just open up. But people generally, we have some really solid people in this community, um, very solid. So we have a solid core of people who've been here a long time before I was here, But um, about 20%. But I say finances because we have people that have the know-how. We have a lot of professionals. We have good people. And a lot of times it's the finances.
Okay.
Most imams, if they have finances, for me, it'd be finances.
Okay. Imam Naeem, you mentioned consistency, right? What do you need to do as a leader to get your congregation to be more consistent, to solve that issue?
If I knew that, I'd have did it already.
Then you might need to ask, right? فاسألوا أهل الذكر إن كنتم لا تعلمون. No, think about it. Since you got to come up with something because you have a problem. What you gonna do to solve it?
You want to hear a cynical answer? Claim to be a prophet. claim that I just came off the mothership.
SubhanAllah. But that ain't gonna work.
Claim relationship, make up a false claim that I'm connected to the Prophet Sallallahu, Alaihi Wasallam. Wear the sharpest clothes, walk around with airs, give my Arabic up and don't speak English, even though I know I speak English very well.
So that's the only way you see out?
No, I just haven't figured it out yet.
All right, we're going to give you time.
I know there's got to be a way.
We're going to go to the other imams. We're going to come back to you. Think about it. Imam Faheem, you got the financial issue. You said it's your priority. As an imam, what do you got to do with your community to fix that financial issue?
You got to know the way, go the way, and show the way. It just had to be a tireless act of selflessness, man. You just have to really give it all you got all the time, in spite of yourself. You just have to show, and then hopefully, people will eventually pick up on it. Someone to have a heart to be like, okay, the imam needs help, and then they'll emulate that act of selflessness, And that's another word I think is besides consistency, we need people to be selfless. We need a lot more people to be like, okay, this is something bigger than me. This is something that, 20 years down the line, this is going to be flourishing. and I just can't think about my immediate situation. Like, I got to go to work, I got to raise a family, I got to do something outside of my own self. But knowing the way, going the way, and showing the way, like nonstop.
Imam Luqman, you talked about the financial issue as the main issue. As an imam, as a leader of your community, what do you need to do to rectify that problem? No microphone.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Myself as an imam, I'm sort of taking a different direction right now because number one, in addition to being an imam at Toledo Masjid Islam, I'm also an imam at large. So I'm an advocate imam. So I'm an imam at large, which is kind of a relatively new position in the United States of America because there's only a few people who even kind of understand that. But I'm an imam at large. So I'm an imam of, locally I give khutbas, the prayers, and I'm an imam in this community, but I'm also an imam at large because of our condition that we're in as Black American Muslims. So I'm really kind of like an imam with certain amount of authority at large. I mean, I will look at this and put a ruling on it, and I'll say we should be doing this, and you should be doing this, and they should be doing it in a general sense as an imam at large, and back what I have to say with Dalil, or I take that authority to do that. People don't have to do what I say, but I have full authority to say about things that's going on in Muslim America, because of my tenure gives me that, and a lot of other things too. So my focus right now is on the next generation. So my focus is on teaching and next generation. Teaching kitab, defending the faith. That's what I do. Defend the faith. Stuff coming in the faith, it's not right. That's my job. My part of my job as an imam is to say, no, this right here, this is kufr, this is shirk, this is kufr, this is bad, this is going to hurt us, this is harming us, that's going to hurt us, that's my job. So the money thing, of course we can use more finances, but I'm not going to really be running around too much because the work is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as it requires funding, Allah will see it through. I used to think 3-4 years ago, and people who know me and some people on this thread probably know, 3 years ago I put up many fundraisers just to try to get the message out, about Black American Muslims. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't on this stuff for like 20 years. I've written articles, books, everything. But Allah showed me that you don't always need money to get it out, because people are talking about issues that I have written about for years, and it didn't require money. It just required this right here. So I've seen things come to the. So although we need more finances, but I'm not gonna, because I've come to the conclusion that whatever Allah gives me as an imam in pursuance of His work, then alhamdulillah. Whatever doesn't happen, whatever. But my focus now is on teaching, defending the faith, and the next generation. I'm more into the next generation because I think that the generation we're in right now, we've done a lot of tactical mistakes that you just can't overturn it. It's just we're way down in the hole. We're way down in the rabbit hole. We're just not going to turn that around. Like if we started right now, today, and we all woke up and said, okay, we're going to fight. Man, you're still going to take a generation. You're going to still take a generation even before you get some sort of normalcy. We're too far in the hole. So my job as an imam is to point out, listen, we're in a hole right here, and this is what we need to do to come out. We need this, and point it out, and then back it with Dalil, so that anybody else coming after me can say, well, here it's laid out. So I'm that's my focus. My focus is on the Dalail, on the Hujjah. That's different. So I'm not really looking. We need money. Yeah, we need money. Our masjid needs money to do. We got stuff that we're trying to do, and we raise money for that, and we're going to always need money for that. But that's not the focus. More is like on the, for me, next generation.
And here's one of the things that, as imams, because we're actually in the position to develop the ideal community, right? So when I'm asking these questions, because you're in the position to do it, right? One of the things I learned, and I'll speak some things and then I want you to bounce off. When I first became an imam, if I look back and I look at my mistakes, and I made a handful of them, one of the biggest mistakes that I made was trying to please everybody, right? I think if I could count, the most significant thing that held us back as a community was trying to make everybody happy, which was impossible. So what I've learned over time is you have to have a direction as a community, and you as the leader of that community, you're going to be the one who helps set that direction with the help of others. Once you got that, then you have to clean house. This is my opinion. I'm giving you my thoughts, and then we can expand. You have to clean house. So everyone who doesn't have a buy-in, see you. That doesn't mean get out, you're not welcome. That means get out, you're not welcome to slow us down. You're welcome. You're welcome to sit. You're welcome to enjoy the speeches, enjoy the programs. What you're not welcome to do is to stop our progress. If you could do that, what I've learned is you develop commitment. Because even if you only have a few people, you have a few committed people, right? Once you have that few committed people, you're able to galvanize your finances because everybody's committed. Now the thing is, take those committed people and use that money, right, to build. And what I've learned over a decade is that once we started doing that, our community has moved ahead fast. We got rid of everyone who just was disagreeable. They're welcome. They always can come to the Masjid, but they have no say whatsoever. I've been called a tyrant for that. But if I look at every year, and y'all have watched, our community grows every year, develops. And what I'm saying, I'm looking at these things and I'm sharing like my idea, and I'm going to ask you to see how these things would work for all of us. Some of these ideas. Everybody in our community who's considered our community have the same belief, have the same practice, have the same understanding of deen, and have the same general vision for our community. And that small group is able to move as one unit so that everyone who comes in contact with our community feels that. Then what I've done as a leader, and I think what's helpful, is reach out around the country, around the world, to like-minded people who wish to share in that vision. And hopefully over time, we could develop a stronger community, right? What's your thoughts about that?
Alhamdulillah. I agree. And my community is similar to yours in that, like, you may have given them a strong push to get out of the way, you know, the disagreeable ones. I think in my community, they just faded out. I didn't necessarily push them. They just kind of like faded out. In our community, we have what's called the 10-Point Medina program, which is like a mission statement or a visionary statement of what we're working towards. So our vision is there. And I think for me, because from the time I became Imam up until now, I see us closer to it. Maybe it's not moving at the speed that I'd like it to move at, but it is going. It is going there. There's a comment here that I would like to a question here that I would like to comment on. I think it's a very important one as part of my answer. Question: we normally complain of finances and a lack of donations and money in the community. Have any of you looked into self-sustaining streams of income beyond property to generate income? If not, what ideas could be incorporated to build your community's collective wealth, in your opinion? My answer to that question is I always get people that present, self-sustaining streams of income. But where I usually get off the boat at is they themselves haven't tried it yet. It's always somebody else's plan. And a lot of times people want us to get in the opportunity at the ground floor. As Imam, I don't have time for that. So I have to, if I think it's, a good idea, I have to delegate that to someone. And then usually these things don't pan out. Usually they fizzle out. And so, everyone that comes to me with an idea, I always got to delegate somebody. Okay, go check this thing out. Go to the webinar, go to the conference, see if it's good, what have you, like that. A lot of times these things don't pan out. I have not that I know of, I have not had one person come to me with a money-making idea that they have done, that they have practiced, is already good, and they including the Masjid in on it. They always want to get the Masjid in before it's proven. It may be proven for someone else, in what you call those things, when people get testimonial section of the website. But personally, we never known anybody, listen, I did this and it makes money. There's always somebody, 4 or 5 people removed on the website, on the testimonial, they said it works. But the person that presented it to me, it never worked for them yet. And so, a lot of times, so I wanted to answer that brother's question by saying that, because, so that's it. So we on our way in our community, and unlike you, we didn't have to push them away. They just went away. They just faded off. So they're not around.
Just to piggyback off what you said, Imam Naeem, I'm glad that you framed it that way, because it just made me recollect on people who have come. Like, okay, now listen, I've been Imam for like 29 years, okay, at 4 different masajid. So some of this I approach from somewhat of a different perspective. I'm more like a kind of consultant, Imam, in a kind of way. But as an active Imam, we have had people who come, let's get involved in this. I'm doing this money thing. I'm doing this money thing. I'm doing this money thing. But what gets me, because I just had a brother recently who hunted me down, man, on the internet. He hunted me down, even fronted me. Man, you're not getting on this business thing. And so I had a fundraiser, and I said, well, dude, why don't you donate to my little fundraiser? Like, make a donation. And he wouldn't make a donation. So I started asking him, well, brother, how can you even expect me to want to do any business with you when you don't have enough to make a donation? And so it was, so what I've seen that. But my experience, listen, Imam al-Qurtubi said, knowledge is acquired through 2 things, nusus wal khibra, right? The knowledge is acquired through textual evidence and trial and error. My experience as an imam, and even our community here in Toledo, it is not an all Black American Muslim community. And in California, it was not all Black. It was about 50-50, maybe 60 immigrants, 40 African. It was probably more immigrant in California. People who made money, business people, and most of the masajid that I know around this country, and I know a lot of imams, a lot of masajid, mainly immigrant masajid. I know a lot. Anyway, most of those masajid, people who had made that money, they come in, and that's how these masajids are maintained. They come in, Okay, how much they come in? They'll buy the building. They'll pay for half the building. They'll pay for the carpet. They'll pay the rent. We have our Masjid here. We have benefactors, alhamdulillah, Amin, who make sure that stuff is moving here. So I'm kind of skeptical about. I think that the individuals need to give money if they have it, and we also need to give sadaqah if we have it. If people don't have it, I think people should be making commitments. But I'm not sure if that's going to work for blacks moving forward, because it may be the next generation. But this generation that we're dealing with right now, listen, we can't raise 10 grand and there's like, I don't know how many thousands of views on this. We can't raise $10,000. $10,000 is not a lot of money. So everybody who's walking, who's asking questions, you got people asking questions, giving their opinions all on this thread. I don't know who gives what, but I'm just saying, you asking me a question and you're not giving $10, $5? To me, that's insane. I mean, I don't really got to answer your question. I mean, I teach on Facebook, and all of you teach. Imam, you teach every morning. Imam, I know you be teaching. You and your wife got teaching all the time. Imam, I know you teach. We all teach. So if you want to learn something, come to one of our classes. But you on the thread, and you ain't gave nothing this whole time? Not $1? Not $1? Here, I'm going to give $1? You on here for 2 hours? Like no money? That to me is insane. That's insane. That's just where we are. So I'm not really. I think that we should use our nonprofits to really fund projects that we're doing that's going to benefit our community and people, and maybe even employ people, because there's plenty of that. So I think we have to diversify. As far as getting black people to give up Black American Sunni Muslims, no, we have too many phobias about money. We have phobias about imams having money. And maybe there has been some imams who didn't do right with the money. That's happened, but I don't know any imam who walked away with millions of dollars, man. I know many masajid where people walked away with millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars all the time. This happens in these big masajid. They raising $12 million and there's $2 million missing, or it's $3 million missing, or something, or there's always issues with the money. That happens. That's life. So I'm just saying that I don't think that we're financially mature enough or spiritually mature enough yet. We have to work on it, but no, we're not. No, so I think that as far as finances, I mean, people got all kind of ideas, but basically, if a dude ain't kicking out no money, I'm not really listening to him talk about money, because my experience is people who want to support Masjid like that, who really about it, they already talked about the money from the get-go. And as an imam, there's people who I don't know from scratch. I never heard of these people. And they really want to get some time in with the imam. Whatever it's an idea, conversation, so-and-so, I don't know them from anything. They send money first. Imam, what's your cash app? Boom. Okay, now, Imam, I got a question. Can you give me a call? That's more close to the sunnah. That's just respect. So I'm saying our problem is systemic, man. It goes deep down. And so it goes back to following the law. Follow the law. So my experience tells me, people who want to give money, they give money, man. They don't go through a whole bunch of talk. I've raised probably maybe millions of dollars at this point over the period of 30 years for Islam. Not for me, but for different organizations. I raised money for all these organizations we talk about. ICNA, not ISTA, but CARE. All these organizations, I have helped raise money for these organizations. Help raise money. Did fundraisers, help support their fundraisers, all kind of stuff. Other masajid, for this masjid, for this school, this masjid. So we've raised a lot of money. And basically people I see who, when masajid raise money, some people just give, they don't have enough, they just try to get a little monthly something so-and-so. But most cases, man, people give, they just give. They're looking for the future. We tie too many strings to the money. We give the money fi sabilillah, but the money don't ever leave their hand. That's another thing. This is law, man. This is the law of Islam. La tubtilu sadaqatikum bil manni wal adha. Allah says right there in the Quran. Don't nullify your charity, but many. Many is when you give money and you're still talking about the money you gave. You gave the money fi sabilillah, but you're still talking about the money. Man, I gave this, I gave that, I gave $50, I gave $100. You ain't give the money. You still got the money. That's not for Allah. That nullifies it. As that means you give money, feasibility, but you think because you gave some money, you're going to dog somebody. None of that stuff is Islam. So we have to unlearn some of these behaviors, but we're not ready. I don't think as Black American Sunni Muslims, we're in a hole, man. Maybe a few. We have to start we got to weed people out, man, because you got the people who are serious lumped in with the people who ain't serious, man. I'm not even going to use profanity, but you got people who are serious Muslims lumped in with the people who some ain't even Muslim. You're just there for the show. How many people on this thread gave money, man? We tried to raise 10 grand, and it wasn't because we need the money. We all starving. It was more to make a point.
Can I share something? And I noticed something. And
that's all I'm done.
To your point is, right, Imam Luqman, though we didn't raise the money, we're around 2,500, right, that we did raise. And may Allah bless all of those who contributed to the effort. But one of the things that we've noticed is that you have people who are not committed. And that's why they don't give money. In fact, you may have people that are come to these platforms to extract the support from these platforms for their own platforms, right? So you will have sometimes we're the Black Imams Roundtable, but there's someone that wants to join just to become known, to bring people to their own agenda, right? This happens. So when you don't have commitment from people, don't expect money. What we need to work on is building commitment, because as we've struggled to all of us together to get the 10,000 individually as masjids, we've tripled or even 4 times that. You see my point? But we did it with committed people to our mission. You see my point? Those people want to do what we're doing. You got to distinguish from those who want to use what you're doing to do what they want to do. There's a big difference, right? And we got to be courageous enough to recognize the difference and then deal with it, right? So a guy who ain't put up no money, who ain't put up no effort, who ain't did anything, I don't know why you're still listening to such a person, right? Like you're not doing anything. Imam Talib said something to me one time, and I never forget it. Imam Talib Abdul Rashid in New York. He said to me, and this was at the African American Islamic Summit. He said to everybody, not just to me. He said, don't come to me with an idea telling me what I can do. Show me something you're going to do. Don't come with an idea saying what I'm going to do. Tell me what you're going to do. And this is important. So I think that's something we need to look at with the Black Imams Roundtable. We need to start finding out who's with what we're trying to do, and then concentrating on those people. And the others, you're welcome to listen, but if you're not committed, you just a listener, right? And that's important to distinguish the two. And then also watch the rebels. Watch those who are not trying to do what you're trying to do, but are on your platform. Be very careful of those. Go ahead, Imam Faheem.
It wasn't my turn. Nah, it's my
Everybody talked.
Oh. Yeah, one of the things that I observed, you remember this scene from the movie Ray? That when the dude that was the MC, when he went overseas, he was touring, and in one of the shows, he dimmed the lights and he said, "Do this, put this light like this." So then Jamie Foxx asked me, he said, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Because it needed to be done." And then Ray said, "Yeah, I like to hear that it needed to be done as opposed to it ain't my job." And I say that to say that a lot of the people who follow, sometimes they got to stop looking at us and have some confidence in themselves and their abilities and what they can do without having to be told, because this is really, it's really annoying, because as much as people, it may seem like we complain about people not doing things, there are some things that will irk the hell out of us that we know people can do. Like, you don't have to ask me to pick out the color of the carpet of the masjid. Yeah, I appreciate the courtesy, but I'm not a fashion designer. You know what I'm saying? Don't ask me about stuff about tools, and I don't know none of that stuff, man. I'm just a director, I give my view, but you have the confidence. Sometimes followers gotta assume a little bit more responsibility instead of putting everything on the imam. And and then as soon as the imam has to make an OG call, then everybody's like they didn't like it, and then it's sidebar conversations, you know. So like, what you have the ability to do, I mean, for me, I always tell people, do it. You know what I mean? If you're a carpenter or something and you see the floor has a hole in the floor, go fix it. If you don't have the means to fix it, we'll get the money to do it. But don't just look, the stuff is deteriorating, and then now it falls in, everybody be looking like, man, you could have been did that. You know what I'm saying? Well, you don't call me about no hole in the floor. Don't call me about a leak in the ceiling. Tell me that you're going to fix it, and this is how much it's going to cost if you don't have your own money. You know what I'm saying? And I think we got to do that. And the other thing that bothers me, man, is that I think people view us as leaders like subconsciously, like they do Christian leaders. And what I mean by that is like, they view us with suspicion sometimes when we ain't living nothing like those people. Like, there's no way I could get on the minbar or the pulpit and tell people that I need a private jet so I could preach the word of God. There's no way that a upstanding imam would do anything like that. And I'm not saying that it don't exist, but we talking about us, man. Like I made a joke in the last night. Like, they can't give a parking spot out this joint, man. You know what I'm saying? And like for me, I mean, I'm not trying to get nothing, but like I don't have a car, man. And there are plenty of people with cars, man, that they could give me a car. I'm not going to ask them for it, but if if you support, like, it shouldn't take nothing, because I know if me as a follower and I owned a few cars and my leader needed a car, he got a car. You know what I'm saying?
Can I share something with you?
No, you can't. I'm
Imam
not finished.
Faheem?
Hold up, man. Hold up. I'm ready to go on a rampage. Nah, say go ahead.
You're right in that, right? My car, right? I was teaching with an organization, and I had a truck. You remember the truck I had, the SUV, right? They wanted me to come teach. They took me to the lot and brought a brand new car right off the lot. Go pick what you want. Brand new car. Keys, title, go. So that concept, and these were Muslims in the suburbs, but they understood the value of what I was doing. What we got to teach our people is to understand the value of the imam, the value of the teacher, the value of the one who works in the school, the value of the janitor. When we know their value, we'll be inclined to do that, right? And for our side, we got to stop saying that we don't deserve it. We do deserve it, right? Every day, all of us spend, I would like to say, at least 10 to 12 or more hours thinking about working on our communities. Would I be right? So 12 hours a day minimum, you're putting energy. Let's give a salary for that. Your work that you do in your local masjids, I would say easily all of y'all at minimum are worth in terms of your work and your effort, at least $30 an hour minimum. Am I right or wrong? I mean, let's be fair. So $30 an hour times 12, what's that? $360 a day. Y'all work 7 days a week. I don't know nobody's a 5 work every day you being an imam, right? So you're talking about roughly over $2,000 a week worth of work you're doing. How much you getting paid? Somebody's devaluing you. And we as leaders, if we don't value ourselves, no one else is going to value. And if they don't value you, they're not going to value those who are less than you in rank in the community, and your community will never grow.
And man, I'm going to mention that's just now the starting salary for a lot of the immigrant masajid is 100. In fact, there's an imam here who makes he makes 120 grand a year. I mean, 120,000 a year. So the starting salary now for imam in immigrant communities is usually about 70,000-80,000 to start. That's if you don't really have any experience, because people are valuing the imam. We don't have that in the black community as much, but we really, and it's not just our fault. We got to understand that our thinking as Muslim Americans is colonialized thinking. We're basically a colony. We're just coming out of that. So we don't value the imam's time, authority. You know, a lot of us are still working on an old script. We're talking about stuff that happened years ago. And when the imam did this in 1917, you know, we're talking about old stuff. So we're not even up to date about what's going on in our own communities. And yeah, but that is a big problem about the money. And I mean, it is what it is. But again, I agree with the other imams here that you gotta weed some people is their dead weight in Islam. They're dead weight. They're just in the way. Right now, we are dealing with an emergency situation with Black American Muslim communities. They're on a decline and they're headed towards extinction. Just look at the numbers alone, just the numbers of new converts, the number of marriages, the number of children growing up not being Muslim, the number of people who don't practice Islam at all. Some brother mentioned today on one of my Facebook threads, he said there's probably less than 50,000 Black American Muslim male that go to Jummah. And I had to stop. I said, you know what? If we start adding up, it may be less than 50. Do you know that's heavy? Most of the Muslim men who go to Jummah are in the prisons. That is clear. In every major metropolis, it's the same way. So we got issues that we need tacticians. We need every imam should be fully armed. I'm not talking about guns. I mean, you should have a gun, but every imam should be fully equipped. Without a Black American imam working on the problem, talking about issues, he should be fully equipped. He should be fully equipped by the people. Really, this is insane. To me, it's insane. Ain't nobody going to starve because people not going to, so and so, and that's why a lot of the immigrant communities. So for some people it is racism, but for a lot of them, I'm telling you, I talk to Arabs and stuff. I deal with people. A lot of immigrants there. It's not so much that they hate Black people. They're like, listen, man, there's nothing there. You got some converts, some stay in, some is not. People stay. You got some really good Muslims, but most of them, they ain't about nothing. They could be wrong, but they're not all the way wrong because they point out different things. And I spent 20 years as an imam in Sacramento, California. 20 years, 20 years, and most of my financial support it came from people. It wasn't from Black. It was a lot of it from Black people, but it were people who came like that. Oh, you man walking? Oh, what, you riding a bike to the Masjid? And they would make sure. And I try.
Imam, this is what,
I'm done.
Let me shit. Imam Faheem, go ahead, because I want to come behind you. Imam Naeem, don't jump out of the conversation.
No, there was a question I saw that I wanted to make sure it didn't get passed. It said about what about the immigrant Muslims, or I think it said immigrant Muslims who have the big time donations to help out, but then they want to control it according to their nuts. And yeah, that is an issue. And I think for me, and I
But real
probably can
quick,
speak
most
for
of them
many
don't.
of the other
Most of them don't
imams,
want to control.
that's why.
Most of them don't. Most of them
Yeah,
get the money.
no,
They want their own
no,
section. But
no, but yeah, but that's why we you know, that's why I'm still struggling part of it, because they could keep it. They could keep it. You know, I'm not going to give up my right to be a leader. You know what I'm saying? For somebody to come and try to sun me. You know. So yeah, that was my question. They could keep it.
But you know, one thing I noticed, and I'm trying to push, right? For us, we got to make a standard, and we gotta raise the bar, right? We have to say as imams, and this is one of the things that I'm talking about for me when I'm trying to push all these imams all around the country, us black imams, that we got to develop a black imam union, even if we don't call it a union, right? Even if we don't call it an organized union, we got to have a standard that is across the country in our communities, right? So for instance, you know, one time I'll share, it's one of my sheikhs, he did this with me, and I'll just share the story. I was teaching in New York for nothing. I would travel, go teach. And the sheikh came from Yemen, and he was traveling with me. And he was with me, and he said to me, I don't know what made him ask, he said, how much you get paid to do this? And I said, nothing. That was cool. He said, don't do that. He said, don't do that. You're teaching them to devalue scholarship, right? You're teaching them that. He said, even if you give the money away, take it. Make them pay. Make them give you a gift, right? I'm sorry.
It's good now.
It's good? Is it clear? How much of that did you miss? Man, I was on a roll.
It was distorted, but we can still understand you, but it cleared up.
So wow, what he said was, he said, make sure they pay you. Even if you give the money away, make sure they give you something. Do not let them devalue knowledge. Don't let them devalue the status of scholars, right? And at the time I was like, wow. But I realized if we don't start to make a standard where people got to meet, they're going to stay where they at. And we'll keep saying about our community, we can't. We got money. We have money. There's a lot of us who are well off, but the standard is I don't have to contribute. I do what I want, and that is accepted. No longer accept that. You know, make sure that, you know what? You have to do this standard, right? You have to establish it. And once you establish it and other imams come on board and establish it, right? Then you'll find out it'll become the norm for the succeeding generations. It'll become the norm. If you come to the masjid, you're going to have to do certain things. You can't come here and not learn, for instance. So in our masjid, we make a standard. You got to learn your obligatory knowledge or you can't say nothing, right? You can sit on the carpet, but if you don't know your fard ayn, you won't be making no decisions around here, right? If you don't contribute, you won't be making no decisions, right? If we keep that habit, now everybody who comes in will be in that mode, right? That's how it is in the church houses. That's how it is in the synagogues. That's how it is in every productive organization. You have to contribute. And there's a standard, not what I want. There's a membership fee. There's a certain responsibility for you to belong in that group or that organization or that movement. In the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you can't just stay back and not go on jihad. You can't do that, right? You read the verses in the Quran. There was some censoring for that. If we read in Riyadh al-Salihin the story of Ka'b ibn Malik, you remember this story, Imam Naim and Imam Luqman, they laid behind on the battle, man, they suffered consequences for that. It wasn't just that they stayed behind and so what? They stayed behind, and think about this is in Medina. The Prophet said, don't nobody give them salam, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You stayed back behind the battle, you didn't come on the field, no one greeted you. Allah had to reveal to accept their repentance. And guess what? They said they felt like the earth was crushing them because nobody in the community was going for that. We got to have that model. If there is no commitment, they got to feel it. It can't be just accepted that I can do whatever I want. No, you can't. There got to be a consequence of, disapproval of non-activity and non-commitment. That's my thoughts, inshallah. Imam Naim.
I had a good time listening. I wanted you to keep going, man. SubhanAllah. Allahu Akbar. Man, mic drop, I'm good. I'll chime in after Imam Faheem, inshallah.
Okay, yeah. Do we have any other questions? No, I don't see any. Yeah, but I mean, I saw some posts in there about, just really supporting us. And I mean, we just need it all the way around the board, I mean, just drawing on my last comment, I mean, because I'm the kind of imam that I try to encourage people to do their part, what they can do, and even at the, Jumu'ah, like, not just your money, your ideas, your presence, your energy, your opinions, all of it is welcome. You know what I mean? So, but don't come to me like we've mentioned this. Don't come to me telling me what I need to do and you ain't doing nothing. You know what I mean? If you look at my leadership, your followership needs to be intact before you attack my leadership. So that's how I roll. And I was reading on the post earlier. No, not earlier, like last week. Somebody asked a question. They said, what characteristic would you need to like make your behavior better? And my response was, I wish I didn't care so much, man. And I know that's probably bad, but sometimes I really wish I didn't care so much, man, because this stuff is crazy, But alhamdulillah, man, Allah. Huh?
No, I said, you're going to get there. You're going to care, but care differently. You're still young.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I'm getting there. I'm a lot better, man. I'm a lot better. So, but
Imam Faheem, if when you keep taking lumps, eventually it's going to teach you to care differently. Because no matter what you do, people will still give you lumps, right? We have in times you find. Last night, one of the imams spoke about leadership needing to solve problems. What are your thoughts on that? Well, that's a good question. But we can come to that. But what I'm saying is, right, you know what you give of yourself, right? And every imam knows how much they put in. And every wife of the imam knows how much the imam puts in. The kids of the imam know how much the imam put in. You can't devalue that. I think we can't emphasize that enough. Like, and when we realize that that's important, and the follower needs to put in just like the imam. When the followers begin, the congregation begin to feel what the imam feels, you're going to have a strong community, right? When people start saying, you know what? I can't walk away. So I know in our community, we have people, as soon as they get mad, poof, they're gone. And you know what I say? Assalamu alaikum ma'as salama. I ain't chasing you. And we keep going. I don't want you to go, but if that's your help, you're not here anyway, right? And if you stay around too long, you're gonna be an infection in the rest of the body, right? Like gangrene. Now we gotta cut you out. And if you're trying to save the body, sometimes we can't be afraid to make tough decisions, right? And sometimes they ain't going to be popular decisions. But think about tomorrow. Do you want the imam that's coming after you in 10 years or 20 years? Do you want him to go through what you're going through? Then make the change now. You know what I'm saying? Right now, we got to say no more. All hands in.
Imam, like I was just reminded several years ago, the brother who was Imam before me, right? We were all in the Masjid. I think it was some type of family. We usually have family nights every third Saturday of the month. I think that's what it was. So we were all sitting down, and a brother came upstairs and said, Imam, the toilet stopped up. So the brother looked at him and said, the plunger right there next to the toilet. He looked at him like bewildered, like he didn't know what to do. So the Imam took him downstairs and tried to show the plunger. The brother, I don't know, I guess he wasn't built like that. He was plunging the toilet. I guess he was vomiting and stuff like that. So the Imam said, well, let me do it, whatever, right? And so that story always stick out to me because here it is, the masjid full of men, but the Imam got to plunge the toilet, right? Now, alhamdulillah, right? The brother might be watching, the brother else vomiting. I'm not talking trash about you. I'm just saying it was kind of sad though. But anyway, right? A lot of times the mindset is like that. Masjid full of brothers, something need to get done. Skip past everybody, go to the Imam to get it done. And it don't get done unless the Imam does it, right? And so I'm saying this to address Imam Amin's point of how we have to train people to act a certain way. Now, fast forward, I'm not trying to get too specific, but there's a brother, right, active in the community, and every little detail, he would come and be like, Imam, it's like such and such. Okay, Imam, this such. I'm like, you ain't got to tell me that. I already gave you the green light. Go ahead and do it, right? If he watching now, he probably like, oh man, he put me on blast. No, I'm not putting you on blast. Now, it's to such an extent, every time I walk into the masjid, I see something different upgraded every time I walk in there. I'm like, Allahu Akbar. Every time I walk in, I'm like, man, this brother, Allahu Akbar. Something different upgraded every day. And so, but like you said, sometimes like you just made me have an epiphany. So if you just keep going with the status quo, people just gonna keep doing what they've been doing. But if you stop accepting what everybody's used to been doing and start demanding and expecting and verbalizing and giving instructions about, stepping our game up and doing something better, the people that's with it is going to step their game up, and the people that's not is going to fall back. That's why I kind of said, I see we getting to where we getting at. Like if that brother, the last brother I was talking about, if I could just like put him on a copying machine and just make a whole bunch of him, it would be good. But alhamdulillah.
We on our 10 minutes left. We're going to bring in the closing. So inshallah, all of us can take a 2-minute closing, and then we can close out with dua with Imam Naeem. Inshallah, close us out with dua. So you'll go last, inshallah. Imam Luqman.
No, alhamdulillah. I think it's a good conversation. I really believe that we need collaboration. You and I talked about that, and you're talking to some other imams that we're at a point, because none of us really have that real, none of us are working with 2,000 member communities, and you have 2,000 member, 3,000 member communities all over the country. All of you have some communities where, I mean, they have two. I know communities where they have like three Jumas and running two masjids. It's all one community, and just with everybody in there is on the record, man. I mean, you got to be a member. You got to join. You got to sign papers. You got to get monthly money. I know communities like that right now. There are many immigrants that some of us complain about, but where they have a Juma, one Juma, it'd be like 4,000 people. Then they can't fit everybody, so they have two Jumas, and it'd be 4,000 at one, 2,000 at the other, and 1,000 at the other one that they moved out of. And so you're talking about 5,000 and 6,000 people in one community. And I've given khutbahs at these masajid and seen the kind of money they raise and what they do and for our schools. And so we don't have them kind of numbers. Black American Muslims, we're only 13% of the American Muslim population. And by about 2030, we're going to be down to probably about 8%, maybe 5%. Some people say, maybe less than that. We're declining. So I think that you take the people who are inclined to do something, that we have to look towards congregation. I think probably we're going to do better doing coalition or collaboration between imams. Because you're going to have to weed out people. There are people who, alhamdulillah, I don't know who these are lost steps. I hope he accepts my deed. But you just have dead weight Muslims, man. Some people, they're just dead weight. And some of them don't even believe. They're just in the way. And so we have to figure out a way to move people who are dead weight, get them out the way. So that the people who are sincere, who are trying to help, because we're in a crisis mode. And what the Prophet did, Alaihi, that was the bay'ah. It was the bay'ah. He made the bay'ah. He made the bay'ah when the women made hijrah from Mecca to Medina after they broke the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Man, the Prophet said, إِذَا جَاءَكَ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ مُهَاجِرَاتٍ فَامْتَحِنُوهُنَّ اللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِإِيمَانِهِنَّ فَإِنْ أَعْلَمْتُمُوهُنَّ مُؤْمِنَاتٍ فَلَا تَرْجِعُوهُنَّ إِلَى الْكُفَّارِ. He said, when these women come to you, making hijrah, test them. Test them. Test them. Listen, wait a minute, hold up. You in or not? And once you know they're believers, then you don't return them to the kuffar. Don't return them to the kuffar. And the Prophet he would make bay'ah with them. Like, wait a minute, this is the women. The men, it was a given. The women during the time of the Prophet, Sallallahu, time of Umar, all that stuff. Like, listen, dude, you in or out? I need to know right now. Because when we send that money for zakat, whether it's money, whether it's fighting in jihad, are you in? Because we're going to be fighting on Tuesday. Not on faith. We're going to be fighting. The army's coming here. They'll be here on Tuesday. Are you in or out? And if you was out, it really wasn't no rap. And we have to do something like that in Black Muslim America because we got too many hangers on. Too many people just here, man. They stick their head in, stick it out. Stick your head in, stick your head everyone. And then they want to talk. And then they want to get all indignant. Brother, you cut me off. You block somebody on Facebook and they complaining. Hey, you block me because I disagree. I block you because, dude, you don't know what you're talking about, man. We give it a pass. So I think we need coalitions because everybody's not going to take my approach. My approach don't work for everybody. It has different approaches. Imam Naeem, he puts things in a much better word, much better statement than I would do it, because that's his demeanor. He's like, now I know how he might get down. Everybody get down, but I'm like, I've been there, man. I've been at that, yes, brother. I'm at the point. Check this out, man. Miss me with that. When you ready to do something, then you talk to me. If you're just talking crap, man, don't even get in my way. I don't have time, man. I got little kids. We all got families to raise and stuff like that. So I think that we should really continue to push the idea of dialogue amongst ourselves and amongst other imams. And I wanted to say, Imam Amin, I like what you're doing, reaching out to other imams. I've been peeping you, boy. I'm like, that's the, I'm like, that's this. Now, not that you my young boy, but I feel like that's my young boy right there because you take it. Alhamdulillah. Everything is not for everybody. I'm just saying, I'm not that. I'm at the point. If you want to know some tactics, you want to know how it works, I would break it down to you how it works. And y'all can put it in another language for the people because everybody's at this different stages. I mean, not better or worse. I'm just saying, I'm a little older. Just some things I'm like, man, don't even bother me with it, man. Some things, because you need that in Islam. You need that in Islam. That is the Islam. That's why people work together. That's why Allah says, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Help each other, cooperate with each other in righteousness and taqwa. And everybody who knows me, I've been through all the manna stuff and all this other. Before manna, we were starting organizations with Saraj and Khaliyasi. We was running around in Washington, D.C. years before they had a manna. Serious business, man. I mean, for real. Imam Saraj, Imam Oba, other imams who didn't become imams till later. Just Imam Jamil. We were involved in doing stuff, man. And so my experience tells me that it's always good to work together with other Muslims because myself, Luqman, Ahmad, I have my way. It ain't the best way for everybody. It's my way. My way. You got your way, Imam. Y'all got y'all ways. Imam Faheem, he closer to Philly. He's more closer to my way. Our way from back in the day is like, dude, it ain't no game like that, man. You need to just chill out because you may not make it home. Now, we don't do that no more now today. Of course, we're all alhamdulillah. But there was a time, if you've been around, man, So right now, we're at a very critical stage as Black American Muslims, and I really appreciate coming together with y'all brothers every week, and we have dialogue. And I'm glad that I'm amongst brothers who don't get all skittish, man. When some of y'all are rougher than me, for real. But alhamdulillah, because we need everything. We need this is like that battle you talked about, Imam. This is like Tabuk. This is our Tabuk. We're not fighting the physical jihad. Allah has graced us. He didn't put us in a situation like that where we got to be rumbling dudes. We don't have to do that right now, but we have to have intellectual jihadism. We are in a fight against Iblis, man. We are in a fight, and this is Tabuk. This is our Tabuk. We're at the crossroads, man. Our Tabuk, man. They said they didn't give salams to the jokers who didn't go. Like, man, yeah, it's getting that way. But I just want to say, because I'm going to go eat, man, so I'm going to finish up. I just want to say I really appreciate this dialogue, and I appreciate this forum. And alhamdulillah, we just keep on moving forward. And as far as the people about giving money, man, if you ain't give no money, man, give some money, man. It's not going to make or break nothing. But you should give. I mean, we are Muslims. This is Islam. This is America. You should give. Give your coffee money. Give the money you was going to spend for coffee between now and next week, or the money you would normally spend for coffee if you was going to work. If you don't have it, you don't have it. But I'm just saying, I just think we just need to we need to grow up a little bit. All of us, inshallah. So I said myself, I'm going to be eating while y'all talking.
Imam Faheem.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Thank everybody for attending, and we ask Allah to make us worthy leaders for people to follow, and for those who are committed, who follow us, we really appreciate you. We love you, and we thank you for your support over the years. I mean, the struggle is the struggle, the grind is the grind, but we couldn't do it without you, without Allah. Of course, without Allah's help and you guys' support that keep us motivated, keep us, because for everything that we may seem to complain about or mention, there are those people who come to us to, make us feel like that, at least in this dunya is worth it. And, we're doing it for a bigger cause, but we do thank you for, all your support, spending this time, this evening with us. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us all in good works and commitment. Amin.
My closing advice I would give to all the imams: raise the bar. Raise the bar. Stop settling for less. As an imam, our people need bold leadership. They need people who can look you in the eyes and tell you, no, we're not doing that. We need those kind of leaders. We don't need leaders who are intimidated to stand for truth and to stand for what is right. We don't respect soft people in our community. We know that. If the imam is soft, we're going to run over him. The leader has to be strong. So, and not ego, not tough guy, but firm, right? Like relentlessly. When it comes to doing what needs to be done to save our people, you got to be firm. And I understand wise leadership, but wise leadership that is strong. Wise leadership that knows when to put the foot down or the hammer sometimes. And also when you need soft gloves. But that balance needs to be there, but not a leader that is intimidated by the congregation or by money or by any of that. That leader needs to be strong. That's just one point. In terms of the followers, you got to be committed. If you're not committed, get out the way. Don't stay in the way. Until you learn commitment, loyalty, allegiance, these noble prophetic traits, get out the way. Don't hold the mission up for your own stuff, right? It's better that you come, pray, sit down. I'm not going to, as they all say, the old saying, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Stop being part of the problem. Sit down and let someone else get the job done until you're ready to join in. And lastly, we need to bring all of that together. The leadership, the community need to be on one accord. We need to be on one accord. And if we can do that on a local level, if every local community can have a leader, can have a congregation that is on one accord, that are working together, then we can go to the national level and join with other masajid and put our resources together to make up for the gap that we may not have on the local level. But we must need communities. So my last thing for everybody here, find you an imam that you love and trust and follow. We want to hope that a day we don't have internet Muslims who don't have no connection to a masjid. You need, as you online, you need to be on the ground as well with a community. So I beg you, find you an imam that you can follow. If it ain't none of these imams in your locality, find one, build one, and then let that imam with his community join with other imams in their communities so that we can build. But I beg you, no more independent, non-affiliated members of the global or the cyberspace. We need people who are connected to real living communities on the ground. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakum Allahu khaira. Imam Naeem.
Alhamdulillah. I want all of you who are watching right now and who watch later on to look at the bottom of the screen. You see some words moving across the bottom of the screen. This is how you can donate to our endeavors. Cash App, PayPal, through Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City's website. As soon as we get off, make a donation right now. Don't say you're going to do it later. Do it right now. It's extremely important. And put Imam's Roundtable in the comments so they know how to disperse the money. It's extremely important. And I also want to double down on what Imam Amin mentioned. go to your Imam and ask him, how can I be a committed member? What do I need to do? What is required of me? Don't continue to be unaffiliated. If you are like this, you are a problem, whether you intend to be or not. So rectify that situation, inshallah. I want to thank all of you who spent the time watching this and all of our other broadcasts. This thread, you stayed here, you didn't have to be here. I want to thank all of the believers from Masjid Luqman of Pittsburgh who was watching. A lot of people from our community watch and participate on the thread every week. May Allah bless you and increase you all. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this endeavor. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase the believers, to unify our hearts, and bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Wastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Al-Fatiha.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.